missed you all last week. We were in Calgary. My son, it was way busier than I thought it would be. Somehow I had this notion it would be like, I was saying to Jeff before, I thought it was going to be relaxing, just to sit back, watch some volleyball, but I became the team mother and doctor all at once. So there was some injuries I contended with. I was buying food, trying to make it healthy for a bunch of 16-year-olds. It's a challenge, but I had a great time. It was a really great experience and something. And they came in 13th in Canada, which I thought was pretty awesome. So we're switching gears. We're gonna, we kind of left the nutrition after spending a lot of time. And today's session is going to touch on exercise or movement. I actually don't like the word exercise as much as I like the word movement, because we have this notion in North America that pushes us, to do more, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Before we do that though, I do want to just give some time to see if why is it not? There we go, it's just delayed. Any questions? You've had some time to let the information percolate. We did a lot of time in nutrition, and some of you come up individually, which is great. You may have talked amongst yourselves, but are there any burning questions that came up from any of the content? You may not have any, and that's totally fine too. I just want to give you an opportunity to cover any big questions. Yes, Kimberly.
This is a really weird question.
No such thing.
Quinoa.
Quinoa.
It says seasoned.
It says seasoned.
To cook. No, like to cook, season, and then cook. What do I season quinoa with?
Never did that. I've never seasoned quinoa in advance of cooking, so maybe just, yeah. So the important thing though that came up in the video, if you watched any of my recipe videos and had a little laugh with how long they are, but I did talk about when you're making quinoa, the big thing is quinoa naturally has this coating on it that's very bitter. So if you don't rinse your quinoa is a grain, for those of you, Q-U-I-O-N-A, quinoa. If you don't rinse it, you get that film will stay on it, and it makes it very bitter. The quinoa is not meant to be bitter. So you want to rinse it, the grains, out of the package, you rinse them, and then you put them in your cooker or in your boiling water or whatnot. So I've never seasoned it ahead of time. I would think that they would just get washed off. So. Oh. Yeah, no, I've never done that. And if you buy it packaged, it doesn't usually say to season ahead of time. Anybody have a different experience, or is that just me? Yeah. That's not a weird question. That's a very good question. No, very good source of protein. Quinoa is one of the grains that has all essential amino acids, so it's a really good source of protein as a base grain. Any other questions? Yes. It is. It's 1 minute. Oh.
Vitamin B12.
Yes.
And it's a oral preparation that you swallow, and it's in time release. And I tried to make it into something really, it doesn't.
So if it's time release, it must mean that the capsule can resist the stomach acids and allows it to pass into the digestive tract. So if it says time released, I'm going to assume, I'm making an assumption, but I'm going to assume the company understands that it's the technology of the capsule. So if it says time released and says to swallow, then follow directions. But for a regular B12 tablet, to just take it and swallow it whole, it won't be absorbed. It's got to be dissolved under your tongue, ideally. Yeah.
Actually, when I was in Buffalo, I saw vitamin B12, and to buy the capsule, I can't remember exactly, $30.
Right.
If you bought the one under the tongue, it was like $12. How about the one under the tongue?
Yeah.
So obviously it's going to be different.
I got that position.
Yeah, it's probably just the technology that's used, but if it says time release, I'm going to assume the company has specifically designed that capsule. Yeah. You may not have to spend that much though. If you spent a lot more, you would probably get the same benefit from or a spray or a liquid under the tongue as well. Yes, Ingrid? Yes. Cream of wheat. I love cream of wheat. Just plain cream of wheat, right? There's nothing else in it? Yeah, it's a grain. It's going to be more calorie dense because you've crushed it, right? It's not a wheat berry. But there's nothing wrong with cream of wheat if you like it. I used to have that all the time, actually, now that I think about it, but I've kind of stepped away for oatmeal, but nothing wrong with cream of wheat, no. Y'all want to get into exercise, movement. Okay, so we are meant to move, right? Our bodies are actually created to move, and it's actually a gift to be able to move. And the only time, unfortunately, we realize this gift is when we become incapacitated somehow and are not able to move. We get sick, we get injured, then we realize how wonderful it is to be able to move. And so it's a gift we have that we often take for granted, but today's session is meant to bring your attention to the ways in which exercise is medicine. We've talked about food as medicine, but exercise is medicine both to prevent and treat many of the chronic diseases. And yes, we are only spending 1 week on it, but again, it's simply because there's not so much detail I need to go into. And I don't want to make this just theology today. We are going to talk about exercise as to what happens when we don't versus what happens when we do, but I also want to make it practical. So towards the end of the session, we're going to talk about ways that you can incorporate activity into your body, no matter what stage, no matter what condition, no matter what age you are. And you might find one of the resources that really sink to you and other ones that don't. But everybody can find ways to move their bodies, everyone. So before we get into that, it's really important to understand the extent of the problem we are dealing with when it comes to movement. We are seeing some very troubling findings in this part of the world when it comes to physical activity and health. Simply put, we are not putting emphasis. As physicians, we are not putting emphasis like we should. We tell patients blanket, exercise more, eat well, but we don't go into the details. And if you don't know, you don't know. So now you're going to consider yourself in the know after today. So we're just not moving enough and it's hurting us. And some of these stats I'm going to show you might trouble you. But don't worry, I'll talk about the solution. The World Health Organization ranks physical inactivity as the 4th leading risk factor for overall morbidity and mortality worldwide. So it is within the top 5 causes of death for humans across the globe. So that's sobering enough for me to want to put my shoes on and hit the pavement. Physical inactivity contributes independently to various chronic diseases. It contributes 6% to heart disease, 7% to diabetes, 10% to breast and colorectal cancer. A lot of people don't understand the connection between cancer risk and physical inactivity, but there is a link. There's also a link to suggest that when you exercise, if you're fighting cancer, you will do better in terms of morbidity and mortality. You may have heard this phrase before, sitting is the new smoking. Anybody heard that before? Yeah. These stats, certainly will support this. So sedentary behavior increases the risk of disease and death. There was a study in 2022 in Australia, 497 adults aged 45 and older. They looked at sitting time. And the results showed that 6.9% of dying from any cause was linked to sitting, again, as an independent risk factor. So, another study actually looked at uninterrupted sitting time and blood sugars in non-diabetic, overweight, or obese individuals between the ages of 45 and 65. And even simply breaking up sitting with just 2 minutes of walking every 20 minutes reduces your blood sugar and insulin levels. That's as simple as that. Every 20 minutes, make it a point to stand up and just do a little 2-minute lap. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Just moving and not having a long period of sitting time is really important. So that's a little pro tip. This might shock you. Physical inactivity is the direct cause of 1 in 10 premature deaths. I really have nothing else to say other than that. In Canada, 4 out of 5 adults do not meet physical activity guidelines set by the Canadian Academy of Sport and Exercise Medicine. And we'll be talking about what those guidelines are. Don't worry, I'll be giving that information to you. But so 80% of Canadians don't meet physical activity guidelines. 80%. Just in comparison, 11% of Canadians report smoking regularly. So as a risk factor, there's less people out, and we all know smoking's bad for us, right? That's not news. So most of us don't smoke, but we don't realize, it's clear that we don't, as Canadians, realize the impact of physical inactivity, because if we did, then why are 80% of people not following this direct link to health? So I would like to claim that physical inactivity is a major health threat to Canadians. To you, to me, if we're not putting it as a priority. Okay, enough about the problem. I'm depressing everybody. Let's talk about the solution. And in a nutshell, it's pretty clear. We just need to move more. Surprise, right? It's not that earth-shattering. The question is like, well, how? And how? And how much of a benefit really is it for me to go for that walk, Amanda? Like, really, is it that important? Well, let's look. First of all, exercise is not new advice. Remember I talked about Hippocrates, the good old father of conventional medicine. He said, very astutely, that eating alone will not keep a man well. He must also take exercise. For food and exercise work together to produce good health. So remember, the key point here is that we like to focus on nutrition, we like to focus on, it's not one thing. There's not one magic bullet. Someone today asked me about the MCT oil in their coffee. They heard it's good for, putting this oil in their coffee. Like, that's gimmicky to me. If it sounds too good to be true, it is, period. If it sounds like it might be a little hard to initiate, it's probably good for you. My morning meditation was awesome this morning. I should save it for next week, but I'm going to share it today. It said, valleys contain the richest soil. The things that we go through that are hard, the things that take a bit of work, the hard times in our life are actually sometimes, you don't like that? Debbie's like doing this in the background. Come on, Debbie.
That's all good when you're out of the valley and you're up on the
You're right. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's easy. No, I never said it was easy, and I'm not saying it's, I wish any bad things to happen upon us, but sometimes we have to step outside of things that are hard and recognize, yes, they're hard, but they often have the most growth from them. That's my point. I would never wish anything bad or too super challenging for you. And I'm not asking you to do ultra marathons, trust me. Is that better?
That's good.
She loves it. I have to take heed to the social worker. She knows way better than I do because she's seeing people in their darkest moments. But you can eat a pristine diet, but if you're not paying attention on physical activity, or if you're carrying around a lot of stress, guess what? You can still end up in the ICU. I've seen it happen. I've seen the ultra-marathoner, green smoothie drinking person in the ICU because he was super stressed and had a cardiac event. Dis-ease comes from all sources of ease, right? This is how impactful, exercise can be. If worldwide physical inactivity decreased by just 1/4, by just 25%, 1.3 million deaths would be prevented. Moving matters, and not just a little bit. It is a matter of life and death. So just as we talked about food as medicine, I want you to also think about exercise as medicine, one which you can safely take daily, and one which is incredibly potent. Even something as minimal as standing more can reduce your risk of dying. This study was published in 2016, and it demonstrated that standing for 2 hours a day can reduce your risk of dying from anything, all-cause mortality, by 10%. It's no wonder that we have these fitness trackers that challenge you and applaud and do fireworks when that's your standing goal. They know, they're selling something, they're fitness tracker, but like it's important to move. And if standing will lengthen your life, then can you imagine what actual movement will do for you? Well, I want you to sit and read this a few times. For every hour you exercise, you extend your life by 2 hours. This is a report from the Surgeon General in the US Health Department. Every hour you exercise, you extend your life by 2 hours. If this were a stock market, a 50% return on investment is pretty darn good, don't you think? And if there was a pill that could promise this kind of result, I tell you right now, somebody would be very rich. And step by step, those hours of life gained actually translate into years. So this is from another study published in 2011. These are in adults over 40 years of age. So if you walking 75 minutes briskly, not the leisurely stroll, you want a good clip, if you can. 75 minutes, you add 1.8 years. 90 to 150 minutes, you're adding 2.5 years. 200 minutes, 3 years. 400 minutes, 4 years. And then it starts to round out. 500 minutes, 4.5 years. That's per week. I used to get asked this question a lot by patients when I would talk about exercise. This is before my life in lifestyle medicine. And they'd say, well, but I'm all day on my feet at work. I'm moving all day, doesn't that count? And I used to like tiptoe around this question because I didn't really know how to answer it. I'd be like, well, I guess that's okay. Like, I understand, like, you're on your feet, oh, you're lifting things at work. Oh, yeah, that shouldn't count. And I didn't really know how to answer it. But then I started looking at the guidelines. And I found this graph, and I'm going to explain this graph. It looks a little busy, but it's actually really easy, and it's, after I saw this graph, I knew exactly how to answer this question. So, to explain it, we have daily sitting time here on the vertical, okay? We have number of minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity, which is what we're aiming for, on the horizontal. Green means the lowest risk of dying from anything. So lowest mortality is green. Red means the highest risk of dying from anything, okay? So, here at point A, so right here in the corner. This makes sense, right? You have many minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity, but you have very low sitting time. This is the person who's moving around all day and actively goes out for their walk every day. They're in the green zone. They have the lowest risk of dying from anything. Makes sense. Then we have B. B should also make a lot of sense. If you spend your whole day sitting and you get absolutely no movement, these are the people who get into trouble, right? They have a higher risk of all-cause mortality. So that makes sense. Let's look at D. D are people who don't sit. Oh, sorry, I'm skipping forward. Let's go first to C. C should also kind of make sense, or might surprise you. If you sit all day, this was actually helpful for me. It made me feel a bit better because in my life in family medicine, I spent a lot of time sitting with patients, sitting, in front of a computer, sitting doing paperwork after hours, sitting. So I spent a lot of time sitting, but you get your moderate to vigorous physical, you're meeting the guidelines for getting that 30-minute walk in 5 days a week. That's all it is, which we'll talk about. You're not the bright green, but you're still lowering your risk. But then D answers that question. Doctor, I'm on my feet all day. I have very low sitting time, but I don't get my steps in. I'm not going out for those walks. I'm not going to pickleball and working up some little bit of a sweat. They're not bright red, but they're not green. They're orange. So even if you stand all day for work, even though standing is beneficial to you, there's something about movement. And it should make sense. You're getting your heart pumping, your blood flowing. You're releasing these endorphins, these positive chemicals that will relax you in the long term. Maybe not when you're exercising, you're going to get pumped up, but then it relaxes, it lowers your blood pressure, it lowers your heart rate over time. So, I'm sorry to say, you do need to move. It's important. Aiming for those steps, aiming to move your body. So across the lifespan, Exercise is beneficial. Now, these were taken from the 2000, the ones in bold were taken from, added in 2018, but these were originally from 2008 guidelines. So, even for children, we're seeing improved bone health, lower weight, makes sense. 6 to 7, so patients who suffer, kids who suffer from ADD, ADHD, this is actually really beneficial for them. Getting outside, moving, it improves their learning, their cognitive function. Improved bone health, heart disease factors, this is for children, right? Moving into adults, all-cause mortality is up at the top, we know this. It lowers your risk of dying from anything. Lower risk of heart disease, high blood pressure, lower risk of type 2 diabetes. Lower risk specifically for bladder, breast, colon, endometrial, esophageal, kidney, stomach, and lung cancers. These are coming from evidence. Brain health, reduced risk of dementia. Improved cognitive function, improved quality of life, improved sleep. We'll talk about sleep in a few weeks, but moving more at the right time of day. You don't want to go for a run before you try to go to bed. You'll be too pumped up. Don't do that. But overall, it actually improves your sleep quality. Improved mental health, we're going to talk about that in a few slides. Weight status, we're going to talk about the impact of exercise on weight. And you might actually be surprised about what you learned there.
Excuse me, how long does it take to go from B to C?
From B to C?
Yeah, from red up the top, sitting all the time.
Yep.
To going to the C in the not bright green, but kind of green, and we're getting there, kind of.
Right. Do you mean like how long do you need to be doing it to see the benefit?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's going to take time, but I think just like when you stop smoking, right? When people stop smoking, very quickly they accumulate health. But it doesn't happen overnight, right? So you want to make it a regular habit. You want to make it a regular thing. I don't have this exact answer because I've never been asked that question. But I'd say anything that you're persistent in and you're continuing in, and remembering that every little bit counts. We'll talk about this. It's a mindset. Sometimes we get hung up on this all or nothing thinking, and it stops us in our tracks, and we need to throw that out the window, and I'll talk about that. For older adults, it's really important not to fall. Your risk of fracture goes up. So moving your body more is very important to prevent falls and the fractures that result from them. And obviously for women who are pregnant and postpartum, it's helpful as well. Nelson Mandela was not a physician, but he was very profound in saying that exercise is key not only to physical health, but also to peace of mind. And I want to take a moment to focus on how important moving our bodies is to our minds and our emotional state and our mental health. Especially because next week's session will focus on stress and the effects of stress on chronic disease and on our health. So when it comes to depression, the World Health Organization claims that depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide. That might surprise you. It doesn't surprise me, having been a family doctor for 20 years. The bulk of what I did was helping people with their mental health issues in family practice. They came for me for some other physical stuff, but sometimes we got into conversations about what they're struggling with, because they're linked. And when people are not emotionally well, it's very disabling. So for those of you who may suffer from depression or anxiety or other mental health issues, you're not alone. But regular exercise reduces your risk of even having depression, even if you're genetically predisposed. This was a 2019 Harvard study, and the team reported that individuals who engaged in at least several hours per week of exercise were less likely to be diagnosed with a new episode of depression, even if they had a highly genetic predisposition or risk for depression. I once had a patient who was an avid runner, and she suffered from generalized anxiety disorder, and she used to say it as a joke, but I actually found research to support it. She used to say, well, exercise is my Prozac. Exercise is my antidepressant. And they've studied this. Studies have compared the use of antidepressants to routine exercise. So half an hour a day, 5 days a week. And they studied them over 6 to 8 week periods. Both groups actually showed improvement. Those who took the medication and those who did not, but exercised regularly. Now, I am not saying you should stop your medication if you are on medication for anxiety or depression. That's exactly what you should not do. But you should add exercise and see if that helps boost your medication. And then you might work with your doctor to lower your dose and then come off. You never, ever, 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 ever stop a medication abruptly. I'm getting the thumbs up. I'm thumbing myself up too because that's a cardinal rule in lifestyle medicine. It's not a replacement for conventional medicine. They work together. But for people, and I'm not also suggesting that people with severe depression or severe disabling anxiety can just go for a run 5 days a week and it's all better. Because the studies did not support that. This is for people who have, say, mild, maybe related to an event in their life, an adjustment disorder. That's who the study was on. For people who suffer from significant mental health issues, medication is a staple. But doesn't mean that you can't exercise as well to help the medication work better. And maybe be on a lower dose. And maybe combat some of the side effects from the medication, right? It's not one or the other, it's always in synchrony. And just like when it comes to using exercise to improve your mental health, just like you can't take one antidepressant pill and expect everything to magically get better in one pill, exercise as well needs to be done more regularly and persistently to see it affect your mental health. Well, I'm not going to lie, though, going for one single walk or run will feel invigorating. Most of the time, people actually feel always, I shouldn't say always, because there's never an always in medicine, but the vast majority of people who exercise or go for a nice walk usually feel better immediately after. I know I can't think of a time where I did some kind of physical activity and said, oh, I feel worse. I always feel a little bit better, right? But for it to help in terms of reducing your risk of depression or helping supplement your treatment for depression, you need to do it more regularly for you to see that benefit. And when I say exercise doesn't just reshape muscles, it reshapes your brain, what I'm talking about is this neuroplasticity. We talked about this when it came to your taste buds and changing, as you start to feed your body different foods that you may not have liked initially will start to taste better because your brain is actually changing the wiring. Exercise also does this for your brain as well. There is a part of our brain called the hippocampus. It's deep within the temporal lobe, and it has a major role in learning and memory. And it's a very changeable part of our brain. And what they found that people who have depression actually have smaller or shrunken hippocampuses. That's why one of the symptoms of depression is difficulty focusing, difficulty concentrating, poor motivation. It's because that part of the brain is actually affected. Aerobic exercise, so exercise that gets your heart rate up, has been shown to reshape and grow the hippocampus when they've studied the brain and size in comparison to exercise. And that's also why people often feel refreshed, and I'm going to talk about this, like some of your best ideas might come when you're actually exercising. Anybody heard of the runner's high? Anybody run or have been runners? Right? It's not a lie, right? Like you get to that point in your run. So the runner's high refers to this point in a run. It could probably be for any really vigorous cardiovascular activity. Cyclists probably have it too. You hit this point in the middle of your session where you start to feel like high, like you can do anything. It's a euphoria feeling, and it's not an imaginary phenomenon. It's actually backed by science when they've studied this. The endorphins that get released in our bodies create this high. And the types of endorphins that I'm talking about are things like serotonin and norepinephrine and dopamine. And when these are released, they give you this sense of euphoria, this sense of well-being. And it's evolutionary. If you go back to why this is, think about it. Our bodies are evolutionarily wired for survival. So anything that's going to promote survival is going to ultimately make you feel good. Maybe not when you're actually holding that plank or doing that push-up, you'll be like, this sucks! But then afterwards, you're gonna be like, wow, I did that. Because it gets your brain hooked. That's when dopamine comes into play. It actually gives you a good feeling to do it again. Let's do it again, because it's gonna promote survival in the long run. Norepinephrine helps with your focus and attention. So this is why it's really good for people who have problems with focus, like our kids with ADHD or our adults with ADHD, attention deficit disorder. The increased surge of norepinephrine helps with focus. And then, this used to happen to me all the time. Whenever I'd be exercising, I was a runner, so whenever I would run, even still when I run, I start to get like, if I don't put music on, so if I'm just running, if I put music, I get distracted, but if I'm just putting on music, I find like the best ideas come to me. Whether it's about a presentation I'm doing, or like I used to, in my old practice, when people would retire or have celebratory events, I used to make up songs to like, or lyrics to songs, and the lyrics would come to me when I was running, so I'd have to like bring a notepad and stop mid-run to write them down. But people used to ask me, like, where do you have time to do this? I just go for my run and it just comes to me. But there's not magic, there's actually a phenomenon that happens. Your brain, we have different waves, right? I don't know all the waves, but I learned about alpha waves. Alpha waves are specific waves that are linked to a state of relaxation, and they're produced after exercise or on the tail end of exercise. We often see alpha waves as well when people meditate. We'll talk about meditation as well. So maybe I find that if I'm with music, I'm into the music, so I'm not really thinking about my presentation I'm going to do or my song lyrics. It would totally distract me, actually, if I had music. But yeah, the music isn't the issue. It's just like if I'm quiet and I'm thinking about stuff, or if I really need to think through a problem, I'll go for a really good walk. Like I just find like it's a way to, we say clear my head. Well, you're actually promoting these alpha waves to help you focus on the task at hand. And you're releasing norepinephrine, which also enhances your cognition as well. It's probably why we're seeing a benefit for people with Alzheimer's with exercise, or preventing cognitive impairment with exercise. And with regards to improved learning and focus, research shows that at any stage, not just in our kids, but in adults and older adults, exercise improves cognition. And they think maybe it's because when we exercise, we build up the batteries of our cells called the mitochondria. And the mitochondria, we multiply them in number in our muscles and in our brain cells after exercise, and that enhances the brain, enhances the power of the brain and muscles to work better. Any questions so far about what I've presented? It's not a long presentation. Today you're probably going to get out earlier than you normally would, but it's just really important. Maybe you're learning some things you never knew about exercise. So exercise and weight loss. Where does exercise fit in the weight loss kind of realm? And when it comes down to it, weight loss is something that's got multiple factors. Hormones are involved for sure in some respect. But if we came down to the math around weight loss, it's basically a calorie, it's a counting issue. So to maintain your weight, the number of calories you take in should equal the number of calories you expend in a day. If you did that, you will maintain whatever weight you're at. To lose weight, you're taking in less calories than you're burning off. But there's a few caveats to that, because one is, a calorie is not a calorie. I've talked about this before. 100 calories of strawberries will be digested and release different hormones in your body very differently than 100 calories of licorice, right? So the calories you're consuming, you want to make them the most optimal in nutrition and macronutrient content to fuel your body, right? But when it comes to exercise, is it a valuable tool for weight loss? And first of all, I'm going to define epoch, by the way. I say epoch is epic. So when it comes to exercise, how does it positively influence our weight? Well, epoch stands for excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. Who cares, right? It doesn't mean anything to you. I'm going to explain what that is. What that means is, well, in lack of a better term, anybody heard of the word afterburn? Afterburn refers to the calories you will burn after stopping the exercise. So the exercise is done, but your body will continue to burn calories even after the exercise is done. So when they study this, even after 48 hours after one bout of moderate to vigorous exercise, you can bump up your resting metabolic rate, the rate at which you burn calories. That's what resting metabolic rate stands for or means. You can bump it up as much as 5 to 10%, which might not seem like a lot, but it builds up. For example, a brisk half an hour walk burns approximately 150 calories. But this activity will boost your resting metabolic or ability to burn calorie rate by 7.5%. So in the subsequent 36 hours, you will burn another 170 calories just sitting there, just because you did the exercise. So you would think then, well, wow, this is great. Then exercise must actually really be a big factor in weight loss. But studies actually don't support this. You're like, okay, great, then why? Hear me out, though, hear me out. I'm not saying it's totally thrown, but to lose weight, it's very hard to rely solely on exercise. To lose weight. So if you're at a weight and you want to lose weight and you don't change anything in your diet, it will be very difficult. And the reason is we tend to overestimate how many calories we're burning in exercise in comparison to what we're eating. So, for example, one slice of pizza has 300 calories, which converts, if you wanted to burn that off, into 1 hour of brisk walking per slice, right? To burn one bite of a Snickers, I'm sorry, I'm depressing everybody. To burn one bite of a Snickers bar, you'd have to jog a quarter of a mile. So that, in addition to this idea, and I've been there, and I'm sure you have too. I did this especially when I was like, I'd go for a really long run and I'm like, okay, I'm going to the Mandarin, right? I feel like I did this hard work, I'm going to treat myself to something, usually higher in calories. So we tend to say, well, I did the exercise, now I'm going to reward myself. And again, these are normal behaviors. It's just what we do as humans. I'm not discounting that. But if you're going to use if you're going to use exercise as a weight loss tool, you will find yourself very frustrated because it simply takes way more exercise if you haven't changed your diet. That's key. So, in summary, both exercise and diet are important, but what I suggest is that if you're looking to lose weight, we think about last week's session when we talked about calorie density and choosing our foods, and using foods not in a way that we're limiting our portions. We're going to eat to satiety, but we're choosing foods that already have a lower calorie density, so we're feeling full but consuming less calories. So diet is key for weight loss. Exercise is very useful and key for weight maintenance. So once you've lost, it doesn't mean you don't ever introduce exercise when you're trying to lose weight. Use it as a tool, especially because it has so many health benefits. Like, I'm never going to say don't exercise. I'm just talking about with respect to weight loss. In and of itself, it's not a great tool, but using it with diet to maintain your weight is very helpful. So some wise person once said abs are made in the kitchen, and I agree with that. Like, if you're trying to lose weight, you got to focus on nutrition, period. There's no easy way around that. But I say it's kept with the steps. So adding exercise once you've lost weight is a great way. Not to mention all of the health benefits you can get from exercise, which I've already talked about. So please don't misunderstand me when I'm saying it's not that great for weight loss. It is so great for your health, and that's the whole point. These slides were just in case you were curious about weight loss, about how exercise plays a role in weight loss. Okay, let's move on to what our target is. So, our target for physical activity is 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous intensity physical activity per week in bouts of 10 minutes or more. Now, that's the Canadian guideline. That's exactly what it says. There's a few other pieces which I'm going to add to that, but in terms of the cardiovascular, the very bare minimum is 150. The National Institutes of Health and the American exercise guidelines actually say 150 minutes is the absolute minimum. They say you should do 150 to 300 per week for optimal health. And the National Institutes of Health also say that you don't have to do it in 10 minutes or more. Any amount is paramount for health. Any amount is better than none. So, although I tend to follow Canadian guidelines, in this respect, I would agree. It doesn't have to be even 10 minutes. If you can get out for 5 minutes, get out for 5 minutes. It's better than the nothing you would otherwise do. And oftentimes, it's just getting yourself out the door. Once you get out the door, you're more likely to continue the activity. I'm going to give you an example of that in a minute. Another point is the National Institutes of Health and the American guidelines don't even have an upper threshold. They say 300 minutes, but you could do more. I would caution to go beyond that because I feel like you're more likely prone to injury and overuse in particular injury. So you don't have to go crazy on it. And if you're curious about where that 150 minutes, came about, it was from this study, there was a study, and I don't think I listed the study, but what they found was, you can see here, I think I started, yeah. So this is risk of dying prematurely, and you can see when you went from 60 minutes per week to 120, you had that big drop, and the kind of peak slope was at around 150 minutes. After that, you still get some benefit, but it kind of levels off. And then, beyond 300 minutes, it kind of flatlines, right? You don't get much more benefit, but you're more likely to actually injure yourself or get overuse injuries. So I would say your absolute maximum is 300 per week if you've not been used to exercise. If you've exercised all your life and you want to go beyond that, go for it. So our guidelines also suggest that we should also be adding muscle and bone strengthening activities using major muscle group 2 days per week. Why? We talked about bone density and we focused a lot about calcium and vitamin D, but did you know that exercise probably trumps those things when it comes to building your bones? And cardiovascular exercise is great for your heart, and usually it involves some kind of stepping, so you're actually weight bearing. But it's weight-bearing exercise. It's using weight, whether it's your body weight or whether it's a hand weight, actually builds muscles that support bones, but it actually builds your bone density as well. So that's why they thought the studies are showing it's so important they have to put it in our guidelines. At least 2 days a week, you should do some kind of strength training. Even if you're older. In fact, especially if you're older. And if you are over 65, those in particular who have poor mobility should really perform physical activities to enhance balance and prevent falls. So things like balance training or Tai Chi is another good one. Some of the Asian physical arts modalities are actually, Qigong is another one. I think I'm saying that correctly. They focus on balance. And it's very important because falls kill our older population. So anything we can do to prevent that is, and really you probably want to focus, especially if you're not used to balance training, the first few sessions should be done ideally with a personal trainer or a physiotherapist or a physiatrist of some sort. Now obviously the guidelines are a bit different for children. Basically children need more exercise, not less. That's a problem because children who are competing with technology now, they think that getting their exercise means that they're using their thumbs, but that's not what we're talking about. When I talk about moderate to vigorous physical activity, what does that mean? You're probably wondering. So there's a very simple test you can do to say if you're actually exercising at the rate or at the intensity that the guidelines are suggesting you should. It's called the talk test. What I love about the talk test is that it really takes away the barrier of where you're starting off in your fitness journey. Because for everybody, they're going to start at a different level. Someone who's run all their lives, their talk test is going to be a very different rate for someone who's never really exercised. So the talk test means that for moderate intensity, you're exercising or you're moving at a rate where you can talk, but you can't sing. So it's a good clip. So for me, as a runner, it's going to take almost a slow jog where I can still talk, right? But when I first started running in high school, I literally I think I threw up at the corner of my house. I got like 500 meters and I like heaving and I could not even do that. Like that was like vigorous plus, right? So where you start, but then you can start to see that you'll be able to go faster. So it's not a rate per se, it's like your perceived exertion. Vigorous intensity means you're not able to see it more than a few words. I should mention, if I go back to the guidelines, so it's 150 minutes of moderate to vigorous intensity. If you're doing vigorous intensity, it actually lowers to 75 minutes per week. So if you're doing that rate constantly, 75 minutes is plenty to get the health that you need, to get what you need to get from it. Just so you know. Again, Canadian guidelines. In American guidelines, it would be 150 minutes of vigorous activity as the lowest amount. They push us a little harder in the States, I guess. So some examples of moderate are walking briskly, but not race walking. Ever see race walking? It's pretty awesome. Water aerobics would be a moderate. Bicycling or cycling slower than 10 miles per hour on a flat terrain. Doubles tennis would be considered moderate. Ballroom dancing, which I would think would be awesome, would be considered moderate activity. And even just general gardening. If you're really moving up and down and you're able to talk, but you're getting a little bit breathless, that's good. That's a moderate intensity. So there's lots of options for you. Vigorous would be race walking, jogging, or running. Swimming laps, as opposed to water aerobics. Singles tennis, where you're having to run after the ball more yourself. Aerobic dancing. Cycling 10 miles an hour or more, might include hills. Jumping rope, or heavy gardening. So I guess if you're continually digging or hoeing a garden, that would probably make you a lot more breathless. Or walking uphill with a heavy backpack. Anybody heard of 10,000 steps? Get your steps in, 10,000 steps in. Probably, okay, is that backed by science? It actually is. There was a study, the most recent one I found was published in The Lancet, which is a very prestigious journal, in March of 2022. And what it showed that it showed a progressively decreasing risk of dying among adults aged 60 and older with increasing number of steps per day until 6,000 to 8,000 steps per day were reached. And if you're younger than 60, it was 8,000 to 10,000. So, yes, if you're over 65, if you're over 60, you can get away with 8,000 steps per day and you'll see the benefit. If you're over or if you're under 60, you want to aim for that 10,000 steps. Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, you mean in time? I guess that depends on how fast you walk. I've never done that. I have to say I don't know. Maybe I'll go for a walk and I'll let you know. So 10,000 steps would probably be, I'd say at least 4 or 5 kilometers walk. About half an hour if you walk at a good pace.
Yeah, with my walking, 5K is like 7,000.
Perfect.
It takes more like, an hour and a half walk.
An hour and a half walk, yeah. Doesn't have to be done all at once, right? So you can do 10 minutes, and even if you've got 30, again, your goal is 30 minutes, right? 10,000 steps, remember, 10,000 steps don't necessarily have to be vigorous walking too, right? So if you go for your 30-minute walk, you can break that up into 10-minute bouts if you wanted to, and then you're on your feet, you're doing your housework, you're walking. This is all steps. And you can wear a tracker just to kind of catch that, but those steps are steps. They don't have to be the moderate to vigorous steps. But it would be hard to reach 10,000 steps just doing your thing in your house, if that makes sense. You're going to have to dedicate some distance as well. What can we learn from the blue zones? Remember those blue zones? I talked about them a few times. These are those pockets of the world that have a really high centenarian rate. These people living into 80s, 90s, and 100s. They're not taking medications. They're largely free of disease. What do they say about exercise? They don't talk about exercise. They just naturally incorporate movement into their daily lives. So they don't focus on a set exercise regimen or a rigorous, strict, punishing gym or home workouts. They simply focus on moving their bodies throughout the day regularly, and that includes walking. They walk a lot. And they also choose activities that they can do into their 100th year. So if you're a power lifter, I guess it's not impossible, but the chance that you're going to be powerlifting, 90 pounds when you're 90 is probably not likely. But you might lower the weight. Doesn't mean you might walk with some hand weights, right? So they just choose natural things that they do. For example, in Okinawa, they don't have tables. They set everything up on the floor, which means that they are getting up and down at least 3 times a day when they're eating. And they're getting up from the floor. And did you know that the ability for you, as you age, to get up from the floor is a longevity factor? So that's something you can practice. Sitting on the floor, you might need some help. Obviously, you want to do this safely. If you suffer from any physical limitations, you want to do this in the presence of a trained physiotherapist. But if you don't have any major health issues and you've never tried, then sitting on the floor and then, sitting by a chair or table and then practicing getting up, right? So you might just get up, or you might get onto your knees first and then you might get up. But practicing that is a simple way that you can incorporate movement. It's not cardiovascularly taxing necessarily, but it's a longevity factor. And you want to be able to use your muscles. In the blue zones, they use their muscles every day, and in doing so, they don't lose them over time. So remember, when it comes to exercise, good health is a process. And it takes a series of baby steps, a series of good decisions, a series of, I don't really want to, but I know I should moments. And remember, like I just said, the 30 minutes or the 10,000 steps does not have to be all in one stretch. In fact, that can be very daunting for many people. And like I said, the National Institutes of Health, when they updated their version for their exercise guidelines in 2018, they said that, and I'll quote, bouts of any length contribute to health benefits associated with the accumulated volume of physical activity. Even a brief episode of physical activity, like climbing up a few stairs, counts. The National Institutes of Health. I say, to paraphrase, any minutes is better than 0 minutes. I guess it's any minutes are better than 0 minutes, if I'm using my grammar correctly. And also remember, if you're going to initiate exercise, start low and go slow. Because you're more likely to, if you just go out there and start, if you've never gone for a walk and you try to walk vigorously for 30 minutes at a bout, you might actually suffer, and then you set back, you can't exercise. I would rather you go for 5 minutes and then see how that feels. And then the next day, do it 7 minutes and see how that feels. Or do 10 minutes until you feel like, I feel like 10 minutes is easy now, right? Small chunks, little steps add up. And you don't need a fancy gym membership. I'm going to talk to you about some ways. In fact, none of them really involve a gym. Some of them will involve going to a community center if you're interested in something like that. But I'm going to share with you some easy ways you can incorporate that have nothing to do with a gym. And this point, I've probably driven this in a lot throughout the course of this course. It's not all or nothing. When it comes to diet changes, you don't have to do everything I say, you don't have to do anything I say. You don't have to do it all 100%. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just make some progress. And the best example I can give of this when it comes to exercise is a nursing colleague that when I worked on obstetrics, we were chatting one evening waiting for a patient to deliver, and she was going through a rough patch. She was just gone to her doctors and they started to diagnose her with high blood pressure, and she was overweight, and she was suffering from some mental health issues. And she said, I know I need to exercise. We didn't even talk about diet. She was focused on exercise. She goes, I know I need to do that 30 minutes. I know I'm supposed to do 30 minutes, but I get home from my shift and I'm tired and I can't get out the door. And I told her, then don't do 30 minutes. I said, set your timer, set your watch, 5 minutes. Lace up your shoes, walk in one direction on your street, 5 minutes. Can you do 5 minutes? Oh, I can do 5, just 5 minutes. Just make it a point. 5 minutes is what, nothing, right? In your mind, 5 minutes is really simple. Anybody can do 5 minutes. I go in one direction for 5 minutes, however fast you can go, and then at the timer, when it comes off, when 5 minutes is up, you can either decide to keep going, or you turn around and come back. You've still gotten 10 minutes that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten. And she said, you know what, I think I can do that. So I didn't hear from her, because then I stopped doing obstetrics, and then I ultimately left my practice, but she sent me this text. It was probably about 9-10 months later. And this is what it said. It said, hi Amanda, I won't make a habit of texting you, but I wanted to let you know that thanks to your help, I've lost 35 pounds. My blood pressure is 122/74, which is normal. I have joined CrossFit, and I hike 7 kilometers a couple of times a week. I am happier and healthier than ever. It all started with you telling me to go outside for a walk 10 minutes per day. Thank you, I hope you are doing well. And I always get a little choked up when I read that. I've never deleted this text, and I never will. Because for me, it just reinforced that you never know what would be your TSN turning point. What would be that piece of advice that you would take and run with it? And it really just made me feel that here's somebody who took a small piece of advice and let it grow. And that for me was the most gratifying, and she wasn't even my patient, for goodness sakes, but just to know that taking that little piece of information and making it grow into your own. She went to college, and I still see her, now that I'm in the OR, she switched to OR, and I see her all the time. She still talks about it. And she's super fit. She showed me she was doing a handstand. She showed me a video of her doing a handstand at her CrossFit gym. I'm like, this is crazy. She goes, I know. I would have laughed at myself if I thought that this is what I would be doing in a few years since I talked to you. But she didn't let the end point become her journey. She just tried to enjoy the journey, right? Don't get hung up on even the guidelines. 5 minutes, it's all I challenge you. I'm not even asking, I'm just challenging you. What happens too is something magical, is when a patient will take the advice and then start going for their walk or eating differently, and then they feel better. They're actually getting the rewards because they feel better, right? You go for a walk, you're gonna feel better. And then they start doing it again, not because the doctor told them to, but because it feels so good to do that. And that for me is that's what this is all about. It's not about me, it's about you. You taking charge. You have all the power. And you make it your own. You do what you can, and it's all good. Every little bit counts. We talked about SMART goals back with nutrition. I don't know what this, I don't know why that big block isn't there. Oh, there we go. So remember, SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time frame. I'm sorry that big block kind of seems. So instead of saying, I'll exercise more to meet those darn guidelines, maybe change that to, I will walk 5 minutes in one direction and back 5 days a week by the end of this month. Make it specific. Write it down. And don't berate yourself if you don't make it happen every day. Remember, mindset is everything. So writing it down really helps. Consider any obstacles you might encounter. So if you know, like, you finish a work day and there's no way you're going to get to it, then maybe do it on your lunch hour. Or maybe do it, it's only 5 minutes, right? Most people have at least a 10-minute break in the day. Hopefully you have more than that for lunch. It's only 5 minutes. Say that to yourself, it's only 5 minutes. Also, accountability in numbers, right? Getting on, having an accountability partner. Getting someone to do this with you. If it's a colleague at work, say, hey, do you want to go? It's a nice time of year to start this as well, right? It's harder to do in the wintertime, I get it. But hey, even if you're working inside and it's the middle of winter, just walk. Just walk around your office. Just walk. Find a few stairs you can go up and down just maybe 4 or 5 times. Every little bit counts. I'm just going to take Siri away. I don't know why she's joining the party here. There we go. Okay, so what are some other tips you can do to move more and sit less? Well, 1, aim to stand up and walk around briskly every 2 to 3 minutes, every 20 minutes. Or sorry, for 2 to 3 minutes every 20 minutes. So you can set a little timer on your phone to go off every 20 minutes. It might mean for frequent bathroom breaks at work, you'd have to explain to your boss why you're getting up. But if your boss asks, just say, listen, I just learned that if I don't get up every 20 minutes, I'm shortening my life. So I'm not going to waste time. I'll be more productive because guess what? I'm focusing on boosting my alpha waves as well. They'll be like, what are you talking about? 10,000 steps, get a Fitbit or a pedometer. Most phones, actually, you can actually get a pedometer app on your phone for free. Try to lower your total sitting time. I know that Apple Watches do this. I'm not promoting an Apple Watch, but they actually have your target for sitting and standing. So aim to sit less than 4 to 6 hours a day if you're able to. Switch to standing when doing regular activities. So if you are reading the newspaper, just stand up for part of it. Not all of it, but part of it. If you're using the computer or you're meeting friends or family, say, hey, do you want to go for a little walk before we sit down and enjoy a tea? Or walk to Tim Hortons and get a tea there. You can do that as well with your friend. You can park further away. You may have heard this as a strategy, or if you're going to the mall, park a little further away so you walk a little bit farther. If you live close to work, walk or bike from home. Wear a helmet if you're biking. Use the stairs. This is all common sense, more than elevators and escalators. Instead of going out for lunch, bring your own lunch, because you know it's healthier, but then use that time saved in driving and going into order and bringing it back to go for that 5-minute walk in one direction and 5-minute back. Oops, I already did that one. This is another, so I talked about this already. Setting an alarm on your phone to remind you to get up and stand, even just to stand. Remember, like, you want to break up that uninterrupted sitting time. So if you can't even go for a walk around your office, just get up, stand, move your legs, do a little twist, and then sit back down. That matters. Instead of snacking on food, if you need to get a snack, have a little movement snack. So I used to go into one of the exam rooms in my office, and I would just do like 20 squats. I would just want to clear my mind to, like, sometimes I go for the snack, I'm not lying. I would go to the back and get my snack. I'm not going to say like I was an angel all the time, but get a stretch, do some wall push-ups. So against the wall, and just push against the wall. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be on the floor. You can do it against the wall. On your counter. You know, ever warm up something in the microwave? 2 minutes in the microwave? Just find 2 minutes, do some push-ups against the microwave, do some twists, do some stretches. If you can, do some squats. Put a chair down, and if you can, if your knees allow you to, go up and down in the chair. 2 minutes. Adds up. And it usually promotes more activity because you feel good when you do it. Look in your township, and I'm going to show you some websites or public health unit for free or minimal charge exercise classes. And actually, Debbie's going to also mention some that are being offered within your family health team. And what exercise is best? You might be wondering, what's the best? Is it walking? Is it running? Well, the answer is actually simply the one you like to do and keep doing. So if you are not a walker, don't walk. If you're a pickleball player, go play pickleball, right? I hear pickleball is a thing now. I feel like I'm missing out because I don't play pickleball. But badminton, find something fun that you look forward to. You can swim. If your joints bother you, you don't have to walk. I know my mom had some knee issues, and she bought a little pedal bike. It was like, I don't know, about $150, but it sat on the floor, and she pedaled.
A cubie.
A what? A cubie? Oh yeah, a cubie. That's right. That's exactly what it was called. So again, that might mean an investment for you, right? But that little bit, and actually, this is a myth in arthritis. People feel like, well, I've got arthritis, I shouldn't. Arthritis pain goes down when you move. Because when you're moving, you're lubricating your joints, you're moving them. So you don't have to move fast, but you should still make a point to move. You'll find that your arthritic pain gets better. So that's your homework for the week, is to set a SMART goal. Maybe it's the 5-minute walk in one direction. Right? Set a SMART exercise goal, write it down, and challenge yourself to see if you can meet it. Now, maybe we'll take a little break, we can do a little stretch break, and then when we come back, Debbie's going to talk a bit about what's being currently offered in the family health team. Then I'm going to go over some simple equipment you can buy. I got all of this stuff at the dollar store, I'm not lying. And I'm going to show you some apps and some websites and some community resources, especially for our older adults. There are a lot of free community physical activity for people who suffer from arthritis or people who have other mobility issues within the community that are actively running now, and there's still space left in them. Because I had to check, because sometimes it's like, you feel like I'm talking out my nose, right? I'm telling you, oh yeah, that's great, but in reality, you go sign up and it's all filled. According to their websites, there are spaces. So I'll show you all that. We'll just take like a 10-minute break to stretch if anybody has questions. Yeah, sound good? All right, we'll get everybody back together. Cindy just raised a really good point to me. For those of you who like to walk, but you're a little bit unsure, you have walking poles. Very valuable tool, right? And look at this. This is a perfect segue into what I have to share.
So, on that note, we are offering an urban pole walking group in St. Catharines. It's going to start on June the 8th. It will run for 8 weeks, meeting at Happy Rolf's on Thursday mornings from 9 till 10 in the morning. If you're interested in joining that, give Allie a call. I don't know if you have a pen, I can give you the number. It's 289-272-0180, and you can, we'll add this to our resource page. There are limited numbers, so hopefully you get in. If you don't get in, yeah, call today. Call sooner rather than later if you really want to do it. Call sooner rather than later. I'm sure if you don't get in, there will probably be a wait list. They might offer another one in the future. The number is 289-272-0180. No, they provide the polls for you.
They provide the poles.
The polls are provided. She'll give you instructions on how to use them. She's our OT. Her name's Kayla. Maybe some of you have already met her. But call Allie and she'll get you set up.
Awesome. Pole walking. 289-272-0180.
That's my commercial.
June the
Thursday,
8th.
June the 8th. Right for 8 weeks.
and it's from 9 till 10 at Happy Rolf's. I used to take my kids there, Happy Rolf's. I never did see Rolf, I just figured he was happy. Okay, so this is the practical part. It's not as long as the first part, so I won't keep you here very long, but I wanted to show you some equipment. I wanted to show you some apps, free, and then there's paid versions, but you can get a lot on the free. I want to show you some online YouTube videos you can use to use some of these equipment, and I want to show you what's offered in the region as well to kind of navigate, help you navigate. All of this will be on the resource page. So I guess I'll pull this over for the camera. The majority of this stuff, in fact, pretty near all of it, I got at the dollar store. The Dollarama, it's not always there, so you have to keep going back and seeing what's available. It comes in waves. The only thing I didn't get there, but you can get there, I have a good quality skipping rope. This is a speed rope. I got it online. It was like, I don't know, 20 bucks, and it's adjustable to your height. And the way you adjust the height of your jump rope is you stand, and it's got to kind of reach your armpits. That's how you know it's the right height for you. And when you're jumping, you're not jumping high, right? That's going to kill your knees. You basically just, and you're going to skip it, you're going to mess it up. Well, that's okay. They don't need to see me do this. It's just for your eyes. But you're just doing a gentle jump, right? Now, if you have knee problems, it might not be for you, but this is a great way. Like, this would be vigorous. And you don't need to do it for a long period of time. Like, you could, this is a really great way to get vigorous activity in 5 minutes. You can actually really get your heart rate up. If you suffer from heart disease, if you suffer from kidney disease, you need to get checked by your doctor before you do something vigorous, by the way. Just caveat there, okay? Make sure you see your family doctor that you're, and I wouldn't start there. I would start, if you've not exercised, start with walking. Walking is your best friend. If you can't do anything else, just walk. Walking has been around for millennia. Our cavemen, men and women did it. It's the way our body's meant to move. So I'd always start with walking. I was just starting with fancy stuff. Now, how do you get that strength training? So strength training is important. 2 days a week you want to be doing it. Does that mean you need to go buy a whole barrage of big weights? You can, but you don't need to. Your weight includes your body weight. So doing body weight exercises is also good. So this means simple things like a squat. And if you can't get all the way down, just get halfway down. And you're going to squeeze your butt when you do that. You don't just like, that's not doing it. You got to put your mind to what your muscles are you're working. So you're going to go down and then you're going to squeeze. Now, I'm squeezing my legs so tight. Bicep curl, you don't even need to have big weight. I've done bicep curls with my cell phone. And I'm squeezing my cell phone so hard that I'm engaging my muscle. If you're putting your mind where your muscle is, you're still going to work it. But these little, if you do like weights, these are at the dollar store. They sometimes have little actual weights as well. I like these ones because they're soft and because they have a little grip bar. Oh yeah, sorry. So a little thank you. So you can actually, yeah, let's move the camera over because I feel like I'm in the big light there. So these weights are at the dollar store. The dollar store should be paying me for this job because now I'm promoting their business, but I have no affiliation with the Dollarama. But I got these there. They were $4 for the two of them, right? None of this costs more than $4, okay? So they're very cost effective. But if you're going for a walk and you want to walk and do some weight, this is a great way to add that. And when you're walking, you can just do some bicep curls. Not the whole time, right? Like you can pump it, or if you just want it, you can stop where you are and do some overhead presses. You can do some shoulder rotations. You can do some arm raises. You can do some squats with them. You can do some little deadlifts, right? So using these and just squeezing them, even just squeezing them while you're walking also is engaging your muscles. It's just little subtle ways. It's little subtle ways that you can get more out of your workout. Yes?
You give them a different weight so they don't.
These are only 1-pounders. But again, you don't need to have a massive amount of weight. But you can go to Canadian Tire and buy a 5-pound weight or a 3-pound weight. You can get them on Amazon as well. Just the cost is going to be more than $4. But when you're walking, really, you don't want to load yourself too very easy way to add some. Sorry?
Easy to carry.
Easy to carry, yeah. Some people, if you want to really splurge, I actually have a weighted vest. So you can get a weighted vest, 6 pounds. I've bought them at Walmart. You can get more than that. I don't know if I'd recommend that. You put the weighted vest on and you're walking with the weighted vest. So your arms are free. That's another way to do it. Just simple, subtle ways. Okay, this is an actual Pilates ball. I did get this one online. But you can get this, just get a playground ball, especially this time of year. So how would I use this? Well, how is this going to work? They use this in Pilates, Pilates. It's a type of, it's almost like a brand, it's not even a branch of yoga, but it's more like mat work. But simple ways you can use this in your home.
So putting this under your arm, again, flexing your muscle and squeezing. That's it. I'm working my shoulders, right? Women always complain about their arms when they get older. This is a great way, just simple. Do 10 on one side. Microwave, 10 on one side, right? 10 on the other, that's one way. You could probably put it in your bicep, squeeze your bicep if you wanted to. You can put it behind your knee, let it roll away. So behind your knee and just squeezing. It's not much, but I'm working the back of my hamstring, I'm working my hamstring, right? Why is it important to work our muscles?
Because guess what supports your joints? Your muscles. I've been a runner since I was in grade 11. In grade 10, grade 9, I hated exercise. When I was in grade 9, I was overweight, and I was the last person who would exercise in gym class. I used to find reasons to feel sick in gym class, and I remember we had to do a run, and I barely made it. I was crawling back, I think, by the end, but I had to do it because it was part of my grade, and I was an A-type personality. And phys ed was my lowest grade, sadly. But in grade 11, I discovered walking and then running. And like I said, the first time I went for a run, I just about died. But I gradually kept at it, and I started to feel good, and then I just kept at it. Where was I going with this? Oh yes, I'm 46 now, so I've been a runner for all those years, and knock wood, I've never had a knee problem. And I'm quite certain because when I was around 19, I started weight training. I started using just body weight exercises and light weights, and I started to go to the gym. Now I don't have time. Once I had my kids, I set up a little home gym, and most of my home gym equipment is this stuff. The beauty of this stuff is I take it with me on vacation. I deflate my ball, I bring it with me anywhere I go. This is also good, inner thighs. You squeeze. You squeeze. So it's a great way. You can lay on the ground, I won't do that. But you can lay on the ground and do a butt lift as well. These are invaluable bands. There's a few different types of bands. These are called mini loops. Then you've got this band, which you're like, okay, what is this for? I'll show you in a minute. And then you've got these with handlebars, all available at the dollar store. Okay? I'll show you how you use these.
The mini bands usually come in packs of 3. They have a light, a medium, and a hard or heavy resistance. These ones are from the dollar store too. These are actually a lot stronger. But if you're starting out and you've never done it, I would get the light 3-pack, okay? And basically, here are some examples. I'm going to include videos, like links to videos you can follow on YouTube to learn how to use these. But again, you're in the kitchen. You're waiting for something to defrost in the microwave. I don't know, whatever. You have these handy, right? You're watching TV every time, a commercial. We don't watch shows that have commercials anymore, do we? You have Netflix. Set a timer every 20 minutes, right? Sitting on your couch, even. Put it going apart. And again, I'm not just doing this, right? I'm going slowly, one, and I'm holding it out there. Or you can go up and out and down. Up, out, and down, right? You can do, you can hold it up here and do the backs of your arms. Ladies, the backs of your arms, your triceps are way more important to prevent the sag than your biceps. Everybody likes to do the bicep pump, but it's actually the tricep that gives your arm the most shape. You hold it like this, and you're squeezing down and up. Not fancy, and then you build up, you get stronger. You can put 2 bands together and make it harder. You can wear these under your foot, right? And you can do a row. That helps the back muscles, okay? Right? You can carefully, sitting down perhaps when you're starting this, put them between your knees, right? And you can do, you're doing your outer thigh work. You can go to the side, right? You can go back. Again, you might want to get stronger bands for your legs, right? You can just walk side to side, right? Different ways you can do. It's very simple. It doesn't have to be expensive. And it works. And you will start to feel tone, but you'll also start to feel strength. Just be careful when you're putting these around your feet. First time, you probably want to be sitting. I've done this for many years. How do these work? These are also great. So these are, again, you step on one side, you can adjust. You can make it harder by making it shorter or longer. And you're just pulling back is one way. You can stand on it. And you can pull up for your shoulders. You can stand in just one middle. And you can go overhead. Or you can go bicep curl. All these exercises you can do. You can do squats. You're adding some resistance, right? With one piece of equipment. When I go on vacation, I pack this all up. So there's no excuse for me not to get it. And I don't do an hour when I'm on vacation, but I do 15 minutes at least. Sometimes I do 15 minutes in the morning to get my day started. We go to the beach, I do my walk, I have fun with my kids, and then maybe before supper, I'll do another 10 minutes. 10 minutes in my head seems so much better than going to the gym over there and sweating out with other people in a gym when I'm on vacation. But you're treating yourself when you're on vacation to exercise. Yes? This is just it's just a exercise. Yeah, it's a band. Yeah. This one works the same way. So if you don't want to get the one with the handlebars, oh, by the way, this also is great to wrap around a tree, and you can do some other lifts that way. You can also hook this into your foot, and you can, don't do that. You gotta wear running shoes, and you can pull back like that, right? There's lots of different ways, and again, you won't think of these. I've done this for years. But the way I found these exercises was to go on the internet and find different videos, which I'll include in your resource pages. These are the exact same, just a plain band. The other important thing about bands, before you ever start your exercise, you look at the band for any small tears. Because a little tear, when you pull on it, turns into a snap. You don't want that, as you just almost witnessed. But you can do the same thing with these. Pulling, lots, and you can buy different strengths and resistance. And obviously a mat, this is a yoga block, so you can do some yoga exercises. This helps support, but you can also use these as a little step, right? I'm not doing much. It doesn't look like I'm doing anything, but in my brain, I am squeezing my leg muscles right now. What am I doing? I am squeezing my quads and my calves. I'm supporting my joints, right? You can do squeezes instead of a ball. Use it with your yoga block. You can use it if you want to get really, you can do this. I wouldn't recommend this if you don't have balance training, right? Lots of different ways you can use simple equipment to incorporate. And again, it doesn't have to be
Anything fancy. Any questions? Ooh, I'm out of breath. Does that count as my 10 minutes? Pilates is good. It's a core training, and because you're using your body weight, I would consider it strength training, more for toning. Yeah, I would call it amongst the strength training. Again, look at our blue zones. They're not doing any of this. They're just moving their body naturally throughout. Thank you so much. I'm going to hire you as my photographer. So yeah, you don't have to get fancy, just moving. So gardening, things like that in your house where you're using, when you're lifting things, use your muscles and think about the muscles you're using. Yes, Debbie?
If you have bad balance or poor balance,
Yeah.
you should do those exercises like by counter or
absolutely, yeah. I mean, if you suffer from balance issues to begin with, I would be actually getting physiotherapy if you can afford a physiotherapy appointment, just to get a full assessment first to make sure what you're safe to do and not do if you suffer from balance issues. But any of these exercises, like all the upper body stuff, you don't need to be by a wall, but you can be by a wall. It's the lower body stuff, right? When you're doing your squats, you can start with a chair and sit on the chair and get up from the chair. Simple movements, right? This is what the blue zones are doing. They're getting up and sitting down, getting up and sitting down. Yes?
I have one more thing to mention.
Yes.
Another thing that people could do if they were interested, if you're looking at becoming more physically active, and maybe you are worried about mobility and you're not sure, there is a program that Rock offers that's geared to people. You know about that? Talk about it?
I do. It's geared to people over the age of 60 or 65, or maybe over 50. 55. I got every age but that one. It's not free, so that's why I didn't include it. But it's like you can sign up and it's a monthly fee. I think it's like $40 a month, and if you sign up for the whole year, it's a little bit less if you commit to the whole year. And they have like physical therapists, personal trainers. It's at Brock University, so it's a full program. I can include that link in your resource pages if you're interested. From a personal training perspective, it's probably cheaper than to hire your own personal trainer. And you know that they're actually reputable, yeah. Yes.
For the health team,
Yes.
I was sent to a physiotherapist, St. Catherine's physiotherapy, I think, for 12 free sessions.
Amazing.
I had a specific problem that we were helping, so I don't know if
Yeah.
you have to have a specific thing that you qualify for it, but it's certainly worth asking if you're going to see your doctor about doing exercise or something like that.
Certainly, yeah. I think usually you have to have an issue, and it might be arthritis, so that might qualify you to begin with, which a lot of people qualify. But I can't speak to that because I'm not part of the family health team, but maybe someone from the group might know. Yes.
Yeah, I just went saw my doctor 2 days ago because I have an issue with my knee.
Yeah.
And she gave me wrote out a prescription. So
Perfect.
I go see a physiotherapist and she gave me a list of all the ones that are paid by COVID.
Yes. That's if you're over 55. You have to be over a certain age. If you're in your 20s and you had an issue with your knee, you'd be paying out of pocket for that, unless you have private insurance. But yes. No, but
I am about 60, over 60.
okay, perfect. And you're less than 55. So yours might be in a physio within the family health team. It depends on the family health. Oh yes, Mary will know.
Yeah, so the family health team has a partnership with St. Catherine's Physio, and we run a program called Activate, and you have to have chronic pain approved by a family doctor, and they have a set program that comes at no charge. And you see a physiotherapist for assessment and a plan.
Yeah, your family health teams actually have so many resources that we don't realize. And sometimes we don't think to ask our doctors because we think that's not their role. But remember, like really, even when I was in training, I was never trained to talk about exercise like this with my patients. Like, how many of you knew that there were guidelines for exercise? You might have. How many of you knew that there were guidelines because your doctor told you there were guidelines? I know. It's not our fault. We're not trained that way. So don't blame your family doctor. Like, I wasn't trained that way. I specifically did this training so I could have this information to share. But it's just not in the part of their normal training as it should be, which I'm trying to work on with medical school. Okay, so what are some online, did you have a question, Anne?
Well, I've done strength training now for 6 years. I had hip replacement, started doing all the leg exercise. I was doing the leg, I was doing the arm. So I've been doing that for a long, long time. Every day, at least 30 minutes. But I don't do cardio.
Yeah.
So I do buy a treadmill. My daughter's gonna put it together, and my plan is because of the hip,
Yeah.
I can't walk for any length of time.
Yeah.
My plan is to do 10, 10, 10.
Yeah, that's it.
So
And start with just 10.
So my
Yeah.
question is, because of the hip, will I ever be able to, do you think, go for an hour walk
Yes.
by building it up 10 minutes?
I think it's definitely within the
I
realm.
never
Yes, I think like anything, just like even myself who's been a runner, like I used to run a lot. Now in my older age, I get 5K and that's my thing. That's like 30 minutes for me. I get my 5, and I don't do it every day because I just don't have time every day. I do try to walk every day though, because it's good. My daughter, it's her thing too, and I get her out as well. And I think it's just built into it. Now it's easier to do in the spring and summer, not gonna lie. Super hard, even for myself, to get outside and do my walk in the middle of winter because I hate cold. But that's why they have malls to walk in. Your local community may have a community center. Our local arena is just putting up an indoor track, which I'm so excited about because it's not as exciting, but put some music on and it makes everything better. Or put a podcast on and get yourself a little educated, right? Educate yourself a bit more.
What I did is, the reason why I've been able to do it every day is because I tell myself, you're retired, you've got all frickin' day.
There's that way.
I've got all day. What excuse do I have?
Yeah.
And I do it
Every day. If you put yourself, like just again, whether you're like more firm with yourself or you're kind of like, well, you know what? I'm going to give my body what it needs. Twist it in a way that's positive. Like I'm actually giving myself a treat. And you'll actually, what used to get me out of bed in the morning, because when I was in my old job, the only time I'd be able to exercise was at the first thing in the morning. So I'd have to get up about a half an hour or an hour earlier before my kids got up. So it was often at the crack of stupid, not gonna lie. And so I would get up, but to get myself out of bed, I didn't have to drive anywhere because I set up a gym in my basement, and I would say, how am I gonna feel after? If I exercise versus not. And I'd always say, you know you're gonna feel better, just get out of bed. Just get out of bed. And I would get out of bed, and I would sometimes sleep in my workout clothes, so that's another little tip. If you're first thing in the morning worker, just fall asleep in your workout gear, and then roll out of bed, put your shoes on, and then get out the door, or get down in your basement and do that little workout. And not once did I feel worse after, not once. In fact, I felt the opposite. I felt like I could rule the world, because you just feel empowered.
And I feel proud of myself.
You should, right? Yes, Monica?
We all have to buy treadmills just to survive the winter.
No.
That's how I feel. Because of my
No.
No, I'm talking about me. I just came out from underground. I had been not outside for 8 months because of winter and depression. So I just, I don't know. I also have a knee surgery I have to do. I can't walk. So it's really like it's hard to do anything. And in winter it's just horrible.
It's hard, and sometimes if you're struggling to, some people don't do well in the winter times emotionally, right? But keep in mind that, remember one of the treatments, and don't say I'm going to do it for 30 minutes. Just say, is there 5 minutes that I can do something, even if it's walking around your home? Put some, honestly, what music do you like? And put it in your ears and dance, for goodness sakes. Dancing to your favorite song for 2 minutes is better than nothing.
I do struggle from depression. I have bipolar, actually. I have bipolar, so I go from highs and lows. And in the winter, I'm usually just not really motivated to go outside. And I have a bad knee, and I probably have to do a knee surgery on this. So I don't know which one is worse, bipolar, the winter or the knee.
Or the knee. But remember that when you exercise, it actually helps your joints. It seems counterintuitive.
I have no cartilage left, absolutely not. It's kind of hard.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's easy. Remember, these aren't always easy. But do a little, be gentle with yourself, and just try 2 minutes, a commercial break.
But what is the difference between like all that weight stuff I do? And it's just
Yeah.
3-pound weights, it's nothing huge.
Yeah.
But not doing cardio, if I didn't, I am going to incorporate that. But if I didn't, does that mean I'm meeting the requirements of a half an hour a day or 60, whatever? I'm not, because there's no cardio.
Yeah, because your heart is your strongest, is your most important muscle in your body, and so it does need to be worked, right? So it's again, not all or nothing. Even if you get 10 minutes of cardio, it's good. But people think cardio, and what do they think about? No, it's a talk test. Go for a walk, find a walk buddy, go to the mall and walk around. Don't bring your wallet if you don't want to spend money. Yes.
There is a fabulous indoor track at Brock University.
Yes, there is.
Like it is in the lecture. There's bathrooms nearby, there's chairs, there's tires.
So Margaret just mentioned there's a fabulous indoor track at Brock University that you can use for free.
Yeah, and the games
Where the games were. Yeah. You have to maybe pay for parking, I'm not sure. No. Free parking. Sounds amazing. That's a great resource. Yes, Rick. Trail walking. Absolutely. I mean, you can add some weights, or even walking with poles. Again, when you're walking with your poles, squeeze the poles, engage that muscle, right? When you're walking, focus on squeezing your butt. Focus on squeezing your legs. If you put the focus on the muscle, it actually enhances the exercise, right? So yes, I'll never say no, and walking in nature is something that everybody should experience. It's so good for you, just to be, even without music, just listening and smelling and being in the space of nature. It's so healing, to the point where a physician can write you a prescription for free entry to a national, not provincial, but a national park now in Alberta and in Ontario. Your family doctor can write you a prescription that says, I don't know what it says, like nature walks and then like national park, and you can show it to a national park, or you have to go online to them and scan in your thing, and you can get a national park pass. There's only a few national parks in Ontario in this region, but that's how important walking with nature. There's some good evidence behind it. So here's some programs offered in St. Catharines. I thought I would just show you. If you went, and I will include these websites, but this website here brings you to Active STC, which I'm assuming stands for St. Catharines. And here, Escape the Ache. So this one here, they have two locations, one in Port Weller and one at West Street, St. Catharines Older Adult Center. Now this is for our older adults. If you're under the age of, I'm not sure, let's see what the age group is here. Does it say, am I missing it? Not sure.
50 up top.
50, there we go. Okay, perfect. Yeah, at least 50 years old, but less than 100. Like, what about that 100-year-old? They can walk to. Escape the Ache is an exercise class tailored to people over 50 with joint pain. And it runs from April 21st to December 29th. It's free, and there are 8 openings remaining right now, so you can click there. So that's one. And let's see here, that's Escape the Ache. Another one, and they have 2 locations for that. I looked at Belly Fit. Belly Fit was, experience this new mindful movement that combines functional fitness, dance, cardio, yoga, and core strength. The perfect holistic workout designed for women at all levels. This is for women over the age of 50, but less than 100. I don't know why that. May 3rd to June 20th, so it's already in progress, and they meet on Wednesday evenings. Again, enroll now, 6 openings still remaining. View fee details, there must be a cost for this. $17.60, I'm not sure, that's for a member package. I guess you have to be a member of something if you wanted a lower cost. Otherwise it's $28, it's still not bad. I'm assuming that's not per session. Older adult fitness class. That's for over the age of 50 as well. Resistance fitness with Eric. That one looks like it's full, but they have this one at the Older Adult Center on West Street. 18 openings here. Enrollment opens May 26th. Join Eric. I don't know who Eric is. But join Eric for a fun fitness class using light weights and resistant bands. Equipment will be provided. Registration will reserve you a spot. You'll need to pay when you arrive or use a clip card. But it says free here, so I'm not sure what that means. There it is, Eric Disher. So that is another option. So there's a few different options at this site. And then if we go back to my presentation, This one is in the Niagara Region Public Health, and I believe that Cindy has done this program, or she's in the program right now. So this has a virtual and an in-person option. So if working out in the comfort of your home is your thing, this might be a good option here. So it's called, if you go to Healthy, Safe, and Strong Exercise Program. So this is the in-person, but they also have an online version. Okay, it's the same program, just one's in person, one's older. It's 60 years or older, and its goal is to improve or maintain strength, prevent age-related muscle loss, build balance to decrease your risk of falls, enhance confidence getting around, and support overall health by providing access to health and wellness education. So classes run for 50 minutes. Each class has elements of cardio, strength, balance, and flexibility and mobility. Seated and standing exercises. This one is called Healthy, Safe, and Strong Exercise Program. You have to be over 60. The cost is free. That's in person. They also have the virtual option if you prefer to be at home. And is that what you're doing, Cindy?
Yeah, I'm doing it online, and when I first joined it, I thought I'm not going to like it. I can't believe I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Like, even when I went up to Vancouver, I did it online.
I've been doing that for 15 years already.
Oh, well, there you go. And you like it? Well, clearly, 15 years? What?
It used to be at the communities at the church that was called Mountain View.
Mountain View, okay.
And I moved to downtown, now I'm doing it virtual.
In virtual.
Not virtual.
And now it looks like they have it up again, but it's just at a different location if you prefer in person. Sometimes the vibe is different. You get to meet new people. You want to get out of the house. But it's really nice to know you have an access just from your home, right? So if you know any friends or family who are over 60 and are interested, these are some programs. I included these simply because for older adults, it's sometimes hard to know how to use these equipment safely. Okay, so this one, Bender Fitness. So Bender Fitness, this is a free website you can go on. I just like her work. I've been following her work for many years. She's got very simple, this is what her website looks like. She is a trained occupational therapist, I believe, but she's also like obviously very fit. I'm trying to get rid of these ads so I can show you. Okay, I just want to be, there we go. So you can see her on the sidebar where I'm scrolling. She's got different workout programs. She's got like a full 6-month at-home. They're all free. 10-week body rock boot camp. She's got 30-day fitness. But then going lower, if it's still here, yeah, she's got different little 10-minute glutes and thighs workout. A lot of them are body weight only, so they're just using your body weight with no equipment. She shows, and it's a video. You watch the video and do it alongside her, so you can see how the exercises are going. Here they are. So look, she even has it here by minutes. You only have 5 minutes. You click on 5 minutes, and you get a Walmart ad. Here, 5-minute core workout, tighter tummy, no equipment, plus a 10-minute lower body workout. Quick 5-minute pre-workout warm-up. 5-minute arm and back workout. Very simple. If you want to just grab a quick snack, do a fitness snack. Why am I going to another? There we go. Oh, these little ads are driving me. That's what you're being driven crazy by, is these ads.
What's the name again?
Bender Fitness. Yep. But she has cardio, so some of her cardio stuff. And again, if she's doing running on the spot, she will say, if you can't run, just march, right? If you can't do jumping jacks, do standing jacks. You don't have to do the full out. You can make it your own, right?
I don't have my right knee. I don't have my right knee, so.
Then just do the left side.
Something else.
Do your upper body, right?
I will do that.
Yeah. Every little bit fit. They have even for if you have any family members who are pregnant, they have pregnancy. So beginner workouts. So she's got a lot of beginner stuff too. If you're not used to lower impact, minimal impact, there are like 1,000 workouts on her website. She's constantly putting more on, and it's 100% free. So I like this website as an option. Again, zero affiliation, just a resource that I've found and personally have used. Another one that I like is Fitness Blender. So not Bender Fitness, this is Fitness Blender. And, oh, I got Blender Fitness again. I put the wrong. You'll have to take my word for it. That site is www.fitnessblender.com. I'll put the link on your resource page. very similar. And apps. So, great fitness apps. These are for all levels. One of the best ones is Caliber. Well, you won't be able to see. You'll just have to fiddle around with them. Often the downside is you have to put your email in, and then you send your email, and then you get on there, so they may start to send you stuff. But then I just go right down and unsubscribe the first day, and then I still have the app. So I get around that a little bit quickly. So Caliber, again, it has, it kind of looks at your age and it looks at your fitness level, and then it will create a workout program based on what your desire is and what your level is. It has little videos. It links to little videos on the different exercises that they recommend. Sweat is another one. Again, there's a beginner. It's good for beginner to advanced. There's free version. You can also pay to get the pro, but none of these you need to go to the pro version. You still get a lot out of the free versions. Fit On is another great one. What I like about Fit On is you can partner with somebody else and you can kind of work out together on the platform virtually, if that makes sense. So you can kind of get on with another person and plan your workouts at the same time, but they have, again, all different types: cardio, yoga, they have meditation stuff as well, and beginner to advanced. 12-minute athlete, all the workouts are 12 minutes. So you just enter what equipment you have, if any. If you don't, you put body weight only, and then you shake your iPhone and they come up with a 12-minute workout. It's 40 seconds on, 20 seconds rest, or you can adjust that as well. Even shorter than that, 7-minute workout. So if you don't have 12 minutes, but you have 7 minutes, this is the same kind of thing. It will just create a 7-minute workout for you. And there's a bunch of different ones on the site. The one that I would recommend is the one by Johnson & Johnson. It's the free version. The other ones are all paid. And then Workout Trainer is another app. Again, I'll list them. You can go and check them out if you're interested, if that's your thing. So just some ways to incorporate activity. Be gentle with yourself. It's not all or nothing. Every little bit counts. 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever you can get. And it's good for you. Yes? Oh. That's awesome. Actually, maybe we can add that to the link when you email. So it is important to walk properly, to wear the proper shoes. You don't want to be walking in Birks. I know that they feel comfortable, but you want to wear proper shoes and socks. If you're walking in trails, you may want to wear different types of shoes, like a trail runner that has a bit more grip. You may want to use poles. And on your handouts, I'm also going to include a sheet that has YouTube links to use some of these equipments as well. Specifically the bands and this, I didn't show you the sliders. So these are at the dollar store as well, but you can just use plain old dish towels for the same. So they have if you're on carpet, they have a solid, I'm on carpet at home, so that's why it's all worn out in my basement. But if you have a hard floor, you can use this side that's kind of, and some people call them torture chambers. So they often use it in plank positions, and while you're in your plank, you're going in and out. But you can also use these to slide in and out. Now, it doesn't look like much, but guess what I'm doing? I'm pushing down on the ground, and I'm sliding out, and then I'm zipping back up while I'm pushing down on the ground. So it actually creates a lot of resistance. They're called sliders, but you can use a dishcloth for the same effect. But anyways, I have some workouts that have sliders in them too. You might not like me because they're tough. Okay, that's all. We're getting out a bit earlier today. Virgil by Niagara on the Lake. At the sports park. A walking track.
But along the walking track, the Virtual Business Association has installed 6 free exercise stations. There is instructions on how to use that piece of equipment.
I've seen
at
those.
that station. There's an easy side and then there's a harder side, so you can switch your things. But it's a lovely short walk, and there's lots of things that you can do
I have seen those. In fact, they have them up at Mohawk College, where I used to do some COVID clinics. They have those stations as well. And I think there's one at Rotary Park in town. They have a similar kind of setup, I want to say. Because I think I saw one of the programs was how to use those. But those are great stations. They're just like a walking trail with the different fitness equipment along the way. All right, everybody. Next week, we're here and we're doing stress. Stress. I'll try to bring a treat too.